One of the things that is really understandably stressful at the beginning of a divorce for people is how to share that information with their spouse, how to ask for a divorce, how to tell their spouse that they're ready to end the marriage. And it can be how you handle it can help or hurt. One of the things that I like to say to our clients is that they're 100% in charge of their behavior in this regard. You're 100% in charge of how you share this information with your spouse. And guess what? They're 100% in charge of how they react to it. You can't control their reaction. But what you can do is share that you're ready to end the marriage with them in a way that is respectful and kind, and that you can feel confident and comfortable with, even though it's hard after the fact. So here are the things that you gain when you have a respectful divorce, which you kick off by with the conversation with your spouse that you're seeking a respectful divorce. A respectful divorce means that your divorce will probably not take as long. It will probably not cost as much in terms of attorney's fees. You'll probably set yourself up for compromise where the two of you are reaching decisions about your futures together as opposed to having a judge to decide. So there are a lot of things that you gain and that your spouse gains and that your children gains from conducting yourself in a way that you can be proud of, that demonstrates respect to everyone involved, your spouse, your children, the judges, the lawyers. Being respectful through the divorce isn't just something that you can be proud of and feel like you behaved in a way that honors your integrity, but it can also create a much better divorce. How do you tell when it's time to have that conversation with your spouse? One of the reasons I want to make sure that we talk about this together is that I see so many people that are so afraid of having this conversation that they really delay having it. And there's two problems with that. The first one is that delaying sharing that you want to end your marriage only keeps both of you stuck in an unhappy marriage longer. What do I mean by that? This can be counterintuitive, but if you're not sharing your unhappiness with the marriage, with your partner in the marriage, then you're not just denying yourself a right to a happy future, you're denying your spouse's own ability to make decisions for their future that are rooted in reality. I'm not saying it's not a difficult conversation. It's an extremely difficult conversation. But the truth is, the best way to love someone is to be candid with them about the fact that your relationship is no longer giving you happiness, joy, or fulfillment. You need to help set both of you free. How do you recognize when it's time to actually have the difficult conversation? First of all, do not let yourself get so miserable that something happens and things get worse. So that happens too often. To have the conversation when it's time to have the conversation. When's it time? You want to have done the things that you want to do to feel good about your decision. That might be working with a mental health professional to figure out if there's a way to make your marriage happier, working with an individual therapist to figure out what you really want. There are a lot of tools that exist to help you determine whether or not the marriage can be happier for both partners in it. But when you've gone through those steps and your marriage is still not serving you, it's still not making you happy, it's time to have that respectful conversation with your spouse. Don't wait until things get really bad. An unhappy marriage is enough reason to choose happiness and have the conversation. Before you have the conversation with your spouse, you're going to want to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally. So that might be speaking with a mental health professional about how to have the conversation in a respectful and productive way. It might just be about grounding yourself and making sure that you're ready to have it. You want to set yourself up so that you're prepared to share your perspective without accusations, just with kindness, with candor. And then you want to allow your spouse to have the response that they're having. Now, if you think that your spouse might be violent or anything like that, I'm not talking to you here. That's a different situation. Get with your lawyer in advance and we'll make sure to make a plan here that'll keep you safe during it. But if that's not a concern, your priority is getting yourself together, making sure that you're well rested, that you've kind of rehearsed things in your head, calm, cool and collected, respectful and kind. So some of the tips about when to have this conversation, when and where really is what I would say. You want to pick a place that's private, where there aren't other people around, certainly not a family gathering or when your kids are in the home. You want to pick a time where there's enough time to have the discussion, where you're not rushed. You don't want to pick a time where your spouse is going through something extremely stressful. Now, there's stress in life, so that's not just sort of a global reason to put off having the discussion. But I'm talking about if your spouse has something huge going on at work or they have a parent in the hospital, take a beat. That's probably not the best time to have the conversation. Another piece of advice that I think is valuable is that you might want to tell your spouse in advance that you want to speak about something serious and help them prepare to have a real talk. Now, don't do that if you'll think it'll derail things and your spouse will want to have that conversation right when you share that, right? You have to fold these pieces of advice into your own understanding of your spouse and how your relationship tends to work, how they react to stress, if they like to be able to prepare themselves, or if it might be better to not give them something to worry about. Working with your own mental health professional on how to have a conversation with your spouse can be a really good idea to help you kind of develop your plan going into the conversation to set it up to be both kind and firm and compassionate. Telling your spouse that you're ready to end your marriage is a difficult conversation. But don't avoid having it. Just make sure that you do what you need to do to have it in the most respectful, kind, compassionate way possible.